what is experimental analysis of behavior? Do you think it is psychology? This is only a part of psychology. It's more than psychology, or it is the psychology.
I think it is part of biology. I regard the human organism as nothing more than an organism, and what he does, what she does, is just behavior, and that is all there is to it. The psyche of psychology is certainly irrelevant these days. Moreover, psychology as a profession is going the wrong way, I think, in the direction of clinical and so on. I believe we have an independent science which is part of biology.
Yes. And the other question, I think experimental analysis of behavior began with, for instance, with your work of 1938, Behavior of Organisms.
Yes.
And I can say that experimental analysis of behavior is about 50 years old. What are the main points in its development that are crucial points to development of experimental analysis of behavior? What have been those points?
I think the main thing is the use of rate of responding as the fundamental datum, measuring probability of response, and the investigation of all the conditions which change rate of responding. That has led to a much more complete analysis of behavior, human and otherwise. But also, I think verbal behavior is a very important change in the whole thing. And when the vocal musculature came under operant control, the species took an enormous leap forward. And that, I think, is the main thing. And I think we have a better grasp of that than other current linguistic or other sciences.
And I'd like to ask you how would you explain, in general terms, of course, the emergency of cognitivism? The
cognitive psychology?
Cognitive psychology.
Well, it's not an emergence, it's a retreat. It's going back to attempts to connect input with output by using the computer as a model. And that was what happened to behaviorism when it was stimulus response. I am not a stimulus response behaviorist. I haven't been for 50 years. But once you have a stimulus response formulation, you have to put a lot of things inside in order to get the stimulus to come out right as a response. And that's what cognitive psychologists are still doing today. They're just going back to the old effort to make input convert into output. And they're using information processing and the computer as a model, and it's a very bad model of behavior.
The last question, Professor Skinner. What would be your advice for instance, in Portugal, psychology is quite recently, the faculty of psychology is 5 years old.
Yes.
And there is a lot of problems because they do not accept experimental analysis of behavior so easily. What would you advise for a student who is beginning experimental analysis of behavior? What should he do?
Well, first of all, I think they ought to do research so they really know what it's about. They should apply it whenever they can, and that will impress people as to what can be done, but not argue. I don't think arguing is going to get you anywhere. We can do things that nobody else can do, and that's enough.
Okay. Very well. I'd like to thank to you.
Not at all. I'm very glad you asked me, and I'm glad we found time.
Okay, yes.